Hey guys, let's do some radical equations. So here's a radical equation for beginners. What if I have the square root of 3c plus 33, and I'm taking the square root of all of that. In addition to that, I add 17 to the expression, and it's all equal to 20. Well, I'm going to use inverse operation. So I'll start by saying, well, let me balance out the 17. I'll subtract 17 to both sides. So that's really equal to 3. Okay? Now, by inverse operations, I can say, well, this radical is in my way, so if I square the entire left side and square the right side, I'll get rid of the radical. So I am going to square both sides. Let me change color here. All right, so if I square both sides at this point, then squaring and taking the square root are inverse operations. So I'll have 3c plus 33 is equal to 9. Now this is a linear equation. So I'm going to take away 33 from both sides, and I have 3c equals negative 24. All right, which means that if I divide by 3, my c value is negative 8. All right, so simple and easy. Then let's try an intermediate equation, one that's a little bit more tough than this. All right, so for this one, let's say I've got the square root of 2 minus b. All right, and this time, instead of being equal to just a number, I'm going to have it equal to another linear expression, to b minus 2. So again, to get rid of my square root, I'm going to try squaring. All right, so look what happens when I square. So if I square the left side, I'm going to have to square the right side. All right, so squaring a radical undoes the it gets rid of the radical. So I'm left with 2 minus b, and that's equal to, well, what's really happened right here is I've taken a linear expression and I've squared it. So really I've got b minus 2 times b minus 2. So I've got myself in a little pickle right here, because to square a linear binomial, that means I'm going to have to FOIL or use a box, right? So that's done simply. B times b is b squared. All right, b times negative 2 is negative 2b. Negative 2 times b is negative 2b. And negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. All right, so you can see your quadratic skills coming in handy right there. So let's clean up the right side. 2 minus b equals b squared minus 4b plus 4. This smells like quadratic equation. All right, I'm going to add b to both sides as well as take away 2 from both sides, because if you remember, if I have a quadratic, I love for those to be equal to 0. So 0 is going to be equal to b squared. Let's see, if I add b, I'm going to be left with minus 3b. And if I take away 2, I'm going to be just adding 2. All right, so I've got b squared minus 3b plus 2. Now you can choose. Should I solve this quadratic equation by completing the square, quadratic formula, or factoring? Big fan of factoring, so I'm going to factor that to b minus 2 times b minus 1, which means my two solutions are b equals 2 and b equals 1. I extract the zeros from each factor. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double check my answer. All right, so I'm going to take b equals 2, substitute it into my original. So that's the square root of 2 minus 2, which is 0. Is that equal to 2 minus 2? 0. Yes. The square root of 2 minus 1, that's 1. Square root of 1 is 1. And then 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So we actually have to reject this second response. b equals 2 is my only valid solution. All right? And that's basic to intermediate rational equations. You notice the most important tool that I've learned right here is to square, right? When I've got the square root of an expression, I can get rid of that square root by squaring both sides. You want to be careful. If you end up squaring a variable, you're going to have a quadratic equation. Don't forget, to solve quadratic equations, I simply choose between factoring, completing the square, or quadratic formula.